Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe here from my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And we've got another Zelda Tears of the Kingdom video for you all. Honestly, the entire game can be summed up as Zelda has an interesting plot and Link just does chores. It's, in spite of the interesting intro, not a game that plot-wise really lives up to Breath of the Wild, or has much plot at all to begin with. This Link is not an inspiring figure. He's a mouse where his predecessors were giants, which, if you look at this as Hyrule's history is suffering from the long defeat of history theory, where the heroes are becoming lesser, everyone is becoming lesser until they'll eventually just be wiped out, it's probably fairly apt to comment on the fact that Hyrule has gotten punier and the heroes have declined. They are not of the measure of, let's say, the Hero of Time or the Hero of Twilight, who were the main great heroes of this timeline, or even the hero of Skyward Sword. That said, the game has Link putting together a car. I realize he put together a motorcycle in Breath of the Wild, which was a stupid idea, but to have him put together a car is still a stupid idea. And I realize that people will say, get with the program and accept that this is the way of Zelda now. But all I can say is, no, it shouldn't be. Zelda's supposed to be fantasy. That is not a fantasy concept. By bringing in vehicles and technology like this and turning Zelda into Xenosaga Light, when Zelda was always a greater and larger series than Xenosaga, cheapens and destroys the legacy of Miyamoto Shigeru.
Zelda shouldn't be just another McBurger type of game.
Yeah, it should be a fantasy dungeon crawling epic adventure. It is. It's what we see on screen. And while the graphics look great, there is more to a game than graphics. Most importantly is the plot and the gameplay element. Apparently, people really enjoy the gameplay. While this is a matter of Zelda no longer aspiring after the golden age of fantasy, but rather aspiring after lesser games and literature. It happens. This game is not of the quality of its predecessors. Let's be honest. And I know a lot of people will be offended and angry and rage at us. Then rage away. But also, don't forget to subscribe, even if you're going to rage. Because if you're going to rage at us, it means you're a fan of ours. And we could definitely use your support, because we're trying to get up to a couple of thousand more subs. So it'd be appreciated. Anyways, all of Link's friends from over the course of the game go to fight for him in the final battle, which this is an interesting plot thread. I can only say that the Goron is offensive in the scene because he put between his legs his secret shard. Yeah, I know what it sounds like. I know what it looks like. And so I'm filled with scorn and amusement at the expense of this visual image, so that the whole idea of the friends coming together and rallying together has no meaning or value. The scene has been basically tossed away by Nintendo because they honestly never cared. By putting emphasis on the Goron's nether regions, they have expressed what they actually think of this. And I know people are going to want to fantasize about how Nintendo loves them and is willing to tuck them into bed and will ride on a shining white horse to their rescue. No, Nintendo is a company. They are supposed to make money. I don't mind dirty humor, but this joke right here has no value.
I much prefer this scene in Hogwarts Legacy.
They have a similar scene?
At the end, there's nothing so crude, but you see all the professors coming together to help you against the hordes of evil goblins.
Obviously, Nintendo did not take this scene very seriously. This is supposed to be their crowning jewel, and they took the opportunity to mock it.
They focused on the wrong jewel.
Yeah, I guess. Zora and Riju are obviously really good. They look great. They're great characters. No complaints. The following gameplay scene, from what I can tell, is one that I've always dreamt of for a Zelda game, where you fight alongside an entire fellowship and Link is leading the charge. But sadly, you're not able to coordinate with your allies. You're not able to... Okay, essentially, Kingdom Hearts 2 did this better and did this right. And I'm not raging here. I'm just more disappointed at this. Honestly, I'm not terribly impressed. And I know I should lie and pretend that I like this and whatnot for the subs, but I'm going to be honest with everyone. I don't feel like playing pretend. I'm not in the mood. I don't have it in me. I'm tired, and I don't want to lie to people. Not a fan of this next scene. It just seems boring. And plot-wise, it doesn't seem to go much of anywhere. We are then treated to the worst dialogue in Zelda history, which... Oh my gosh. This is actually really, really bad dialogue. I've known 6-year-olds who can outright it. This, how disappointing. This world should be shrouded in darkness and not bathed in insufferable light. It's fine to have a mustache-twirling villain, but the dialogue is just so utterly over the top. Here's the problem. You don't really have a villain with a clear motive in this game. The game doesn't even have a villain for the most part. It's supposed to be Ganon, but he doesn't appear except at the end. And the trouble is, at the end, he's just spouting more Saturday morning cartoon villain nonsense. Now, I'm going to take a lot of you back on a journey. In A Link to the Past, Aghanim's goal is to revive Ganon, the Demon King. In Ocarina of Time, the goal of Ganondorf is to seize the Triforce. In Twilight Princess, it is revenge. In Skyward Sword, Demise has the intent of corrupting the world. He's essentially a devil. That being said, Ganon, as someone who talks about how the world must be shrouded in darkness, etc., 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 is honestly, it's fine for a motive, but the way he talks, the voice actor doesn't do himself much credit here. He doesn't carry. And so you're left feeling a little embarrassed for him, because he's clearly embarrassed by them, and the dialogue is not great, as said. And the thing about the motive being he wants to shroud the world in darkness is that this is not a clear motivation. It's one thing if he wants to corrupt the world, but why does he want to corrupt the world? Ganon then going for this entire transformation sequence to Ganon. Seriously? He just went from skinny toothpick to Ganondorf. My problem with that is that we're supposed to believe this is him powering up, but essentially he's not really powered up at all. Link destroyed and crushed when he was Ganondorf in Twilight Princess with minimal difficulty, and then proceeded to bully him all across the Hyrule's fields, which is a pretty funny scene. Every other game has had Ganon, when he says, I'm going to power up now, turn into a giant warthog with swords in each hand. And honestly, it has fitted him. His piggish form does reflect the inner darkness that lies in his heart and shows that evil is ugly at its core. But all I can think here is, seriously? This isn't a power-up. This is just you going in for a makeover. What makes it worse is that he genuinely does look rather menacing in his thin, corpse-like form. But then as Ganondorf, he doesn't look at all that menacing. And this just further neuters the game. Frustrated by his inability to beat Link in his souped-up form of Ganondorf, Ganon decides to pluck the jewel off his brow, crush it a little, and then he missed lunch. So he's decided to chow down and, enjoy himself a little. Because, well, guy missed lunch, cut him some slack. Has him saying, I will sacrifice my body and my mind if it means destroying... Yeah. The dialogue here is painful to listen to. Far more painful than the pain he felt when he swallowed that treasure. Actually, maybe his mother should have taught him as a child. Don't put everything you find in your mouth. He obviously never got over that 2-year-old phase.
Yeah. Looking at the Demon King design, I couldn't help but think that he looks like one of the gods out of God of War.
Yeah. Actually, the god designs in those games was pretty good. He basically goes off, becomes a shadow, and flies up through the... As to the demon dragon, while... The visual look is great. The eyes are terrible. The eyes remind me of bug eyes. So you have this giant dragon, which actually looks sleek and great. And it looks like a corrupted Asian dragon. But the eyeballs are so weird that it removes all sense of menace and believability. And you're just staring at it and going...
And this is the kind of giant dragon that I would have liked to see Link fight against in another game.
Yeah, in a better game than this.
Ocarina of Time may have a large dragon, but
Volvagia was better than this one. I think the problem here is that this is a great idea that Ganon becomes a dragon and tries to destroy Link. This is very classical. That's a good idea. The problem is the eyes are just so weird. And the minute you find something funny looking,
it's hard to look away.
Then a dragon swoops in because the creators wrote themselves into a corner and they didn't really have any means for Link to fight this thing because they don't intend to fully have you fight this dragon on your own. So they have to cheat. And a good dragon that shows up when there shouldn't be, I'm just saying, there should not be a good dragon that shows up to save you. Ganon, who tries to bite at it, is made once more into a ridiculous laughing stock and pale shadow of himself because he really can't do anything right at this point.
This is a situation where instead of letting this good dragon come in and then Link fighting him, they're so focused on the sky. Why not let Link have a sky battle with this giant dragon?
No, I'm going to disagree. Link should be on the ground. It should have aerial advantage, and you should still have to beat it. You have light arrows. Shoot at it. That knocks it down. Then you sword.
I know. I agree with you. I'm just in this context.
Oh, they're going to have the sky battle. You're going to be riding a dragon, and you're going to be fighting it. Now, I like the idea of a hero riding a dragon and fighting another dragon. I do like this idea. I'm a fan of Dragonlance. But I don't think this is the game for it. I suddenly realized something. This dragon, Good Dragon's head, is completely ripped off from the Spirit of the Forest's head. The same color palette was used for the fur, the same eyes, everything. This is actually the Spirit of the Forest design. So we do have, once again, the plagiarism from Princess Mononoke. Let's call a spade a spade. This is plagiarism. Let's be honest. I don't really care one way or the other.
I've had more fun with a Zelda game playing Legends Arceus.
Yeah, I guess. You ended up commenting while we were watching that FF10 did this battle better with Sin.
It felt like in the end you were on the Highwind about to strike down Sin to make your way into Sin.
Yeah, which just makes me want to go back play or watch that game, considering that was one of the greatest Final Fantasy games of all time. And it combines sci-fi and fantasy far better than... And if you don't like it, that's fine. You can disagree. I imagine we'll be getting a lot of flack and a few people might unsub. That's your choice. I'll respect that. Doesn't mean I'll be terribly impressed still with this game, and I imagine some will try to defend it in the comment section for reasons that escape me, but I can only say that this is essentially the equivalent of a Whopper or a Big Mac culturally. This has no value, nor does it have any reason to exist, and it has no meaning.
I don't get a very Zelda-like feeling from this game.
No, they're trying to be Princess Mononoke, but there's only one Princess Mononoke, and honestly, it was a great movie. It was. But this is a subpar game. Now, in terms of gameplay, they've removed any possibility of losing, really, from the game. The enemies that spawn on Ganon are big, clunky, and easily disposed of. And if you fall off of Ganon, the other dragon immediately catches you. So then, you can't fall to your doom. You can't lose. At this point, That said, after the dragon is defeated, a vision of Rauru and the lady who's into furries disappears, and we are left with Link falling from the sky in a scene that's clearly a ripoff from Kingdom Hearts' opening scene with Sora falling from the heavens. He, of course, sees Zelda falling further below him and decides to dive. Honestly, it's gravity. At this point, can someone just die from free falling like this? I'm getting tired of seeing characters free fall. What is the point of this? Enough of this trope. Kill it with fire, as I've explained. It's just not an attractive trope.
Getting out of hand for this game.
And for all video games these days and movies. I can honestly say I'm not going to be using it in any of my novels. And yeah, I had to plug those because that's all this is for. Honestly, the Zelda tubers saying, oh, I love this. This is one of the greatest games ever. They don't love this game. I'm going to break it to you all. This is good for views and subs. This is really good for business. And this is a business, just to be quite honest. That's all that they think of this game as. It's a business. This is useful for gaining views and getting eyeballs. And if they suck up and praise it enough, the YouTube algorithm will favor them and you will keep coming back and you'll subscribe to them. Honestly, we're not interested in playing the whole, greatest game of all times ever. Objectively, the greatest Zelda game, probably either Link to the Past, Ocarina, or Twilight Princess. One of those three. My personal favorite is probably Link to the Past or Hyrule Warriors. This game just fills me with apathy. And the whole diving after her through the heavens thing, Kingdom Hearts has done this sort of thing better. Countless other games have done this, countless movies. Iron Man has done it better. Superman has done it better.
It's a trope that works far better with superheroes.
But it does not work in fantasy fiction.
Especially not Zelda.
No, Zelda is supposed to basically be a Celtic fantasy story, like how Dragonlance is supposed to be playing to Arthuriana as well, but from an American point of view. And the trouble is also that all fantasy is derived from Hour of the Dragon and Howard's other works, and Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's other works. At no point do you have Frodo going, Kamehameha, or diving from the heavens. It's one thing to fly on eagles. Frankly, I'd rather see a Dragon Slayer scene of Link dying in a rather comedic way, like what happens to Dirk the Daring in Dragon Slayer. And yes, I'm going to plug Dragon Slayer because I've actually been drawing some images from Dragon Slayer, and I'm actually enjoying that. That's all I've gotten out of this is a desire for older fantasy. And I can bet you that most of the Zelda tubers don't really care about this game, since everybody is oohing and eyeing, and it's the most recent thing and you're not supposed to criticize it. They're plugging it And then in 3 years or so, they'll say, oh, you know what? I think I've cooled a little on it. I don't think it's my favorite anymore. For the next 15 seconds, it'll be their favorite, just as Breath of the Wild was. But what happened with that game? After 15 seconds, they went, I think Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess or Wind Waker or Majora's Mask or Link to the Past or Hyrule Warriors or any other Zelda game is their favorite. And the reason for that is that they do this for marketing reasons. It's very good for business. And we did this for the views. Now, I was kind of curious about it, but I'm not terribly impressed by what I saw. So we're not going to rate it. I'm going to say a flat 0, and I think that's actually being generous towards this. No, wait, a quarter star for the intro. I did enjoy some aspects of the intro.
Yes, I will go a quarter star. This is not a Zelda game. This feels like you have some JRPG writers
who were hungry for Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, they're trying to write a pseudo Kingdom Hearts, but they should stick to something like Lord of the Rings.
I'm actually going to say this. This has convinced me that Zelda should never be science fiction. We're definitely going to be making our own Zelda fan fiction set of videos in the future. We're gonna have to, because Zelda should be fantasy. Put our mouth where our money is, so to speak, make our own videos in the model of that which DJ Malfunction gave us, and we're gonna make our own Tears of the Kingdom.
I remember spending hours watching our brother play Ocarina of Time.
Oh yeah, that was wonderful memories there.
Here it is. He played it and he replayed it. It was gripping. Every sword swing that our brother did, I loved it. But here...
Same with Twilight Princess and A Link to the Past.
Yeah, even Majora's Mask. Here, it's like I was bored. An aspect of spirit missing.
Yeah, there is something missing spiritually from this game. It is a terrible game, let's be honest. Compare this game to Princess Mononoke, why not watch Princess Mononoke? If you want to compare it to a Zelda game, why not play Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess instead? You want to compare it to a great fantasy series, Hercules Legendary Journeys is still out there. If you want to compare it to a great set of fantasy movies, there's the Narnia trilogy, which is a great set of movies. Why pander to what is new when what is new is not always as good as what is old, but it can be again. That's why one has to aspire after the golden age. I can think of no more a way to end this video other than saying I hope you all join us for our continued analysis of A Link to the Past with our Hyrule in Focus series and our reaction videos to Four Swords Misadventure before we dive into our scripting and creating our own Zelda series, which will probably be about 8 to 10 episodes. Until next time, do take care, and if you enjoyed this video, and even if you didn't, do what is most popular by smashing that like and that subscribe button as though you were Link taking down Ganon.